Notebook number 12 as we wrap up in here at the Horseshoe. Ohio State, a 13-10 loser. Notebook number 12, loss number 2 for Ohio State, and the 4th consecutive loss in a row in the game. Ryan Day just wrapping up with his post-game press conference. We had 2 Buckeyes come in to speak about the loss, Cody Simon and Will Howard, both fighting back tears, letting some tears go. This is one of the most surreal post-game scenes of the season, not just because of trying to wrap your mind around what happened on the field as Ohio State lost control of the Big Ten race, lost again to the Wolverines, but also because of a mad dash fight and everything else that happened afterward. It is a lot to process. We look over here, still some fans that are hanging out. We're going to head down here in just a second, letting things clear out in this hallway. But just a hard to comprehend everything that happened. So you had Michigan and Ohio State fighting at midfield. You had pepper spray involved. You had a fan base, a vocal minority waiting at the end of the tunnel to yell and call for Ryan Day's job, yelling at the players themselves. So Ohio State was fighting Michigan on the field after the loss, and then there were some verbal fights going on between Ohio State player family members, and some players who were taking in some criticism. And you can understand the fan base frustration. I certainly understand where it's coming from, but when I look at this game and evaluate it as a whole, I thought that Ohio State played with a lot of fight. They played with a lot of passion. They played with a lot of energy from the start. So as I start to sum this up, to me, this is maybe the biggest indictment of a coaching game plan, coaching decisions that I can really remember for an Ohio State loss. And we're going to get into all of that in here on the notebook as we roll along. But to me, it was summed up late when Michigan is driving. The defense finally doesn't really deliver in a situation where they had to. A 3rd and 7, they miss a tackle and got a chance to maybe get the ball back with a couple of minutes left. Ohio State calls a timeout. They come back out for a 3rd and 3. They've got 12 men on the field. You can't call another timeout. Illegal substitution, a free first down. Michigan is able to drain the clock down. That is essentially the end of the game. 13-10, it is almost unthinkable that that's how Ohio State could lose a game like this. The only touchdown comes right before halftime. They get into a 2-minute drill. They rely on throwing the football. Will Howard goes 6 for 8. Jeremiah Smith draws a pass interference penalty right over here. He scores in that corner of the end zone. And you think, okay, well, Ohio State's found its footing. It's ready to get things rolling. You lean, this Ohio State offensive line feels like that's the best use of its skills, is pass protection. And didn't really happen again. And even when Ohio State was able to force some turnovers, and Caleb Downs gets a remarkable interception as we're heading over here as Fox tears down from Big Noon kickoff for the last time this season at the Horseshoe. Look out for the wire here as they take down the sky cam. So I can try and process a lot of this information as we go along here, but that's when it felt like Ohio State was about to stamp its control of this game. It's the best 3rd quarter team in the country. Defense still didn't allow any points in the 3rd quarter, but it was 10-10 at halftime. It remained 10-10 after the 3rd quarter. 2 missed field goals that wind up dooming Ohio State. Obviously, that was critical. 2 turnovers. You just can't have that. So Michigan tried to make a scene right here. I made my way down to this tunnel over here where eventually Jack Sawyer rips the flag down after the fighting, after the pepper spray, after the team had finally separated, and they're trying to fold this flag, and Michigan support staff, they're having a great time with it. They're laughing. They want to, put this flag somewhere special to them. And, as Ryan Day did say on Tuesday to the victor of the game and the victor of war, go the spoils. They did what they wanted out here. Now, so again, to Ohio State's credit for the way that they they fight. Well, it might not sound right to you right now to give them credit for that, but they said that was not going to happen. What Ryan Day's exact words were, there's prideful guys on this team. They weren't just going to let that happen with the flag. Jack Sawyer eventually rips it down. So I'm making my way over to this tunnel. You see Caden McDonald being carried back up the tunnel. You see Jermaine Matthews hit. I believe it was his mom. Some family members are dragging him up. She's saying that she was spit on by Michigan people, and he's upset. He's worked up. It was crazy. So to add that on top of everything else, it feels weird to be dwelling on the post game. Like we have to on the notebook. That's where a bunch of stuff wound up happening that wasn't on the field, which everybody could see what transpired there. And we're going to be spending a lot of time trying to make sense of exactly what happened and how that happened for Ohio State for a long time to come. They are not ready to just talk about the fact that they can go be a playoff team, that they could go on a road, on a run, is what Will Howard said, one of the two players, again, that talked after the game. They can still win a national championship, but they are not going to win gold pants. They are not going to go to Indianapolis and play for a Big Ten title. Those two goals are going to be eluding them for the fourth year in a row. So this is going to be a difficult process for Ohio State, I think, to bounce back from. And Ryan Day was asked about that. It's like, no answer, really. I mean, they're going to have no choice when they wake up tomorrow but to start shifting gears and turning attention to that. But they weren't ready to do that in this moment because there was a lot of tears being shed, a lot of emotions, and they don't have answers for how one of the nation's best offenses, most efficient offenses, maybe not the highest scoring, but one that could turn it on and score seemingly at will, like it did at the end of the first half, how it could be held to one touchdown. You just, I open it up here, and it's hard to go through this because it felt, again, like everything was trending Ohio State's direction, both from the toughness, the mentality, the way that both of these teams have played throughout this year. Michigan, muffs the opening kickoff, and it's like, okay, well, here you go. Ohio State's going to be in control of this game. They're going to handle it easily. Just didn't work. 3-0. Then they give up, the touchdown. Even though they had a bunch of great plays, I've got Caleb Downs' name written in here probably 15 times. The defense did everything it could in this game, except make one tackle in the fourth quarter. So it's hard for me to look back at this and say, oh, it's the same old script from the last 3 years. They were not able to get off the field in the fourth quarter. While that may be true, they had done that repeatedly, shutting down what Michigan does best, suffocating the rushing attack. Davis Warren did make a couple plays through the air that extended those drives late, but Ohio State made so many plays. The Caleb Downs interception, Jack Sawyer coming up with an interception that felt like, all right, well, that's finally it. Ohio State can exhale. None of those things wound up making the difference or pushing them over the top because I thought the offensive game plan was just really hard for me to comprehend with a rushing attack that was going sideline to sideline and horizontally, far more often than it needed to. What's the one thing that we've said Michigan could do? They could control the line of scrimmage. They've got really good defensive tackles, and maybe that's what Ohio State thought it could do by trying to stretch the field and get to the sideline. It wasn't working. They were not able to hold blocks. When they had success, they scored right down here with Jeremiah Smith, and that came there obviously at the end of the second quarter. That drive, they go tempo. They weren't huddling as much. Will Howard goes 6 for 8, drew the defensive pass interference. Jeremiah, they get the touchdown. But it was then when I go back to some of the coaching decisions and the schematic adjustments, they start the third quarter, they come out, and in the first half, Ohio State had used Caleb Downs. At the end of the game, they used Emeka Egbuka as the kickoff return man. In the start of the third quarter, they put Travion Henderson right over here, and before it even happened, so with the way that the direction the wind was blowing, this was clearly going to be a shorter kick. There was going to be an opportunity for a return. Whether that's why Ohio State chose to make that adjustment for Travion Henderson or not, didn't get into that in the postgame. But he lets it fall right here inside the 10-yard line. Ohio State, even though they were able to flip the field eventually, and they spent really the entirety of the third quarter down the other end of the field, that set an ominous tone for me that I didn't understand a lot of what was going on here. I still don't understand what's going on out here with a bunch of track meets going on the field. Weird version of the notebook. I just want to cover some of those bases, that what happened during the post game. Not going to obviously hang out around there to try and get some of the interviews with the players. They cleared out of that locker room pretty quickly. I do appreciate Cody Simon and Will Howard doing what they could to come give some answers. Whether they were short or not, I don't know. But, this is one. Ryan Day stood up there for, 10, 12 minutes. I thought he gave some thoughtful answers and replies, but it still didn't really get to the bottom. What exactly happened is in here as Ohio State drops to 10-2 and out of the Big Ten race, barring something that very unforeseen. And now they're going to have to sit and wait. They are going to make the college football playoff. Whether that means that they're going to be back in this building in the middle of December, or if the college football playoff committee could drop them to the 9 seed or lower, where they then have to go on the road, we're going to have to wait and find out. There's other football games going on. Conference championship weekend is going to determine a lot of that. And Ohio State's not going to be part of it. So, I don't have a lot of answers for it. Don't have a lot of extra interviews for it. We're going to try and get in a lot more of that with Snap Judgments, and then we get ready for the podcast daily and everything else moving forward as we try and figure out what's next for Ohio State, because this part of their to-do list, they have come up short again, the 4th year in a row, and they really have no excuses for it. They lose 13-10 to Michigan. This has been the last regular season edition of the Notebook. There will be more coming. Appreciate all of you for watching throughout the season on the podcast. We'll still have more. Appreciate Berm for handling the camera as he has all year and braving the elements on a really cold day in the Horseshoe. But that's going to do it. I don't know what else to say, but we'll find some more as we continue the post-game wrap-up of Ohio State losing in the game 13-10. We'll talk to you next time.